Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome to the messengers in our home. Dear Kardec Radio listeners, welcome to the messengers in our home. Tonight we're going to talk about chapter 31, Cecilia at the organ, and we will discover that music plays a very important role in the spiritual world as well. Hello, Mackenzie.
Hi, Francisca. And hello, dear friends. Welcome back to another chapter of the messengers in our home.
So before we start, let's take a moment, letting go of our days and elevating our thoughts to the higher spheres. Dear Mother, Father God, Creator of the universe and of our yet small hearts, we are grateful for all the gifts you have given us, your blessings, like our lives, and this opportunity to be gathered in your name once again with people all around the world to learn more about what the messengers in the spiritual world do and how they help us in our everyday life, in the small and big crises. And we thank you, dear God, for your presence in our lives. And may we evermore notice it in the small and in the big things. May our heart be filled with love towards you and towards everyone else around us. We would like to welcome the good spirits who are always accompanying us with their good inspiration and their support, not only during our meetings, but in our lives as well. And with your permission, we now would like to start our meeting. So be it. So here we are. Let's listen to the reading of chapter 31. Enjoy.
Chapter 31. Cecilia at the organ. When I was incarnate, I rarely had the pleasure of attending such a select gathering. All the lamps were magnificently alight, and the large trees outside gently swayed in the breeze, seeming to reflect the moonlight. Graceful couples moved about on the veranda and the long staircases. The castle filled with more and more happiness as the number of guests grew. Alfredo was graciously receiving friends from the next colony and was proud to welcome those who were direct collaborators in his work. Joy shone on every face, and as I observed the beauty of the scene, I pondered the felicity of social life amongst individuals who, far removed from hypocrisy and degrading conventions, had begun to understand and actually practice love one another. We were engrossed in lively conversation when Alfredo invited us to the music hall. There was an overall feeling of happiness. Mrs. Bachelor, arm in arm with the gracious Ismalia, seemed pleased with the invitation. The large room was wonderfully illuminated by soft and shining blue lights. Delightful music soothed our souls. A choir of child musicians was performing a melodious piece, accompanied by a large organ much different from the ones on the earth. 80 boys and girls formed a lively, enchanting scene. 50 of them were playing stringed instruments, while the other 30 stood singing gracefully. They were performing a lovely barcarolle to marvelous perfection. I had never heard anything like it on the earth. Deeply moved, I heard Alfredo explaining. The children of the station are our living flowers. They bless us with their fragrance, enchantment, and joy, making all our work much more pleasant. We all approached the organ and sat down in comfortable chairs. When the children finished to warm applause, Ismalia asked Cecilia to play something.
Me?
Said the young woman, blushing.
You have come down from the higher realms, where the harmony is sanctified and pure. How could I play anything pleasing to your ears? Nonsense, Cecilia,
replied Alfredo's kind wife with a smile on her face.
Uplifting music is sublime anywhere. Go ahead, my child. Remind me of the beautiful days of home back on earth.
Before the young bachelor could ask what she would like to hear, Ismalia continued.
The musical services of the station remind me of our old farm when I would return from boarding school. My parents loved the works of the European composers, and I practiced the piano almost every night.
And resting her moist, bright eyes on Cecilia, she concluded.
Your mom surely remembers my dear old father's favorite piece.
Mrs. Bachelor whispered something to her daughter, who walked confidently over to the great instrument. With inexpressible emotion, we listened to her excellent performance of Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, accompanied by the jubilant children. I gazed at Ismalia's face, noticing from the light in her eyes that her thoughts were far away, perhaps at her former home. She discreetly wiped away her tears and embraced Cecilia affectionately when she had finished.
Now, Cecilia, sing a song from your soul,
said the noble lady with the tenderness of a mother.
Show us your heart.
Mr. and Mrs. Bachelor were happy and touched. The love with which they followed their daughter's every movement could be seen in their gestures. The young woman smiled and turned back to the keyboard, but now she seemed profoundly transfigured. Her beautiful face seemed to reflect a different light coming from a higher place. She began to sing in a mysterious, moving way. The music seemed to come from the depths of her soul, immersing us in sublime emotion. I have tried to recall the words of that wonderful song, but it would be impossible to repeat all of them to incarnate souls. The darkness of midnight cannot portray the splendor of the dawn. Nonetheless, I have remembered a little of it, and I will record it as faithfully as I can from my imperfect memory. As if encircled by a different light in which we ourselves were bathed, Cecilia sang in a velvety and caressing voice.
I have kept for your eyes the shining stars of the peaceful sky. I have gathered for your soul all the pure lilies from along the way. My beloved, my beloved, how long is the journey amidst the obstacles, in this vast ocean of longing, before the sublime moonlight of eternity? In vain the fairy hope lights the light inside me. Why have you gone to the world like this? Return to me, my beloved. Even though your hands are cold and your feet are bleeding with pain, I bring you the relieving balm of tenderness. Return to me. Come and breathe once more in the garden of immortal union. I will heal all your wounds of bitterness. I will give you direction on your path. I will love those whom you love, so that you may bless me with your smile. Return to me, my beloved. Forget the pain and darkness of the past. return once more to our paradise.
When she had sung the last notes, I saw her face awash in tears, as if bathed in pearls of light. Very moved, Mrs. Bachelor touched Ismalia's hand lightly and said,
Cecilia has never forgotten him.
Looking extremely touched, Ismalia asked,
Haven't you received any news about Herminio? The poor thing has experienced one downfall after another.
Mrs. Bachelor explained.
And Cecilia knows that she won't be able to count on him for a long time. That is why she is going through such inner torment. Even so, she hasn't gotten discouraged, and she works incessantly, filled with hope.
The young woman wiped her eyes and returned to her family group. Ismalia embraced her and said,
Congratulations! I didn't know that you had progressed so much in the divine art. And what a beautiful song!
Cecilia made a timid gesture, kissed the hand of her loving friend, and replied,
Please forgive me, dear Ismalia, but my heart is still very much connected to the earth.
Ismalia, however, with moist eyes and a full understanding of Cecilia's inner suffering, held her close and whispered,
To be devoted is not a crime, my good Cecilia. Love is the light of God, even when it shines at the bottom of an abyss.
Translator's note. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, barcarolle is a Venetian boat song characterized by the alternation of a strong and weak beat that suggests a rowing rhythm. So, tonight we're talking about chapter 31, Cecilia at the organ. And as we've been following, Andre is at the final gathering at their castle with a very large group of people. And he's been talking to the girls, he's been talking to the bachelors, to Vicente, to Aniceto, to everybody. Well, he relates only a few of those talks naturally, but these are the final moments of him in Campo da Paz before they move on and take the road to Earth, right, to do what they are supposed to do. And that's why in the beginning of the book we had him meet all those people, and because they were preparing themselves to go to Earth to help a group of people down here on Earth, a group of people that are still incarnated. So at this very moment, they are in this gathering. And he starts this chapter by telling us that when he was incarnate, he rarely had the pleasure of attending such a select gathering, which is interesting, and for us to put ourselves in his shoes and try to see this gathering through his eyes. Naturally, it can be easy or it can be hard for us. It will depend on us, on ourselves. If we want to take a look through his eyes. But the main point that he wants to make clear for all of us here is not just about the beauty on the exterior, and we already know that, but it's not just about the type of clothing that people are wearing, if the castle is well organized, if there is enough food for everybody. No, it's not about that, because and we have to keep reminding ourselves, and mainly I'm talking about myself here, but hopefully this can help others and can help you as well to think about this, is that unfortunately and up to these days we tend to judge, but more than judge only, we tend to condemn other people based on what they wear or on the exterior, right, on the mask. And that's not, and that's exactly what Andre is talking about here. He's not saying that this select gathering, it's just because it's people from the high society, or it's because it's people from this religion, or it's people from that religion, or it's people from this race or from that race. Or no, it's not about the exteriority, right? And while I'm saying this, I'm remembering a comment that in a conversation that I had with Francisca right after we had the publishing of last week's chapter 30, right? When we were talking about the possibility and the probability of me, for example, being born. Well, I am a man, and being born as a woman on the other life, or had been a woman in a previous life, or being a black man or a white woman, and so on and so forth. So I just want to make it clear here that these are only examples, right? Like, it can be a black man returning as a white man, or the other way around, the white man being born again as a black man. And these, colorings, right, that we use, that we employ when we are talking about people, these are just masks. These are just temporary clothing that we are wearing once we reincarnate. So all this talk about prejudice that we still have these days, it's something that one day, hopefully, we will all leave behind, because this is just temporary. As we keep repeating, we are not the body that we have. We are a spirit that has a body, that's wearing a body in this reincarnation. On our next lives, maybe I that was born in Brazil, maybe I can be born, I don't know, in the Arabian Peninsula, or I can be born in China, or I can be born here in the United States, and a person that was born here can be born elsewhere. So it really doesn't matter. So it's about this exterior that Andre is trying to make us unfocus, right? To focus on what's really inside. Because this social life and this social gathering that he's talking here, that's such a select gathering, it's not because of this exterior. Well, he doesn't mention if the people here are black, are white, if they are from India, if they are, Hindus or priests, or so he doesn't mention this, right? Naturally, by the names, we can maybe see or think that they are Brazilian. And if they were born in Brazil, we have such a mixture of races and of cultures that it's kind of hard to really know if the person was born black, brown, white, whitish, rose, or green. There's nobody is born green, right? Unless those quote unquote here, those little green men from Mars that we are so used to seeing the popular culture around. So what he's talking here is about what's inside each of those spirits present at that gathering. And he says at the very end of the second paragraph, he says, and I'm going to quote here, he pondered, and I'm quoting now, pondered the felicity of social life amongst individuals who, far removed from hypocrisy and degrading conventions, had begun to understand and actually practice love one another. So it is interesting for us, and when we are in a gathering, it doesn't matter where, but let's say in a spiritist center that I go to, or in the church that I used to go, or in the temple that I go and practice my religion. Sometimes I expect other people, right, to practice the love one another. I expect people to treat me well. And the question to ourselves is, what am I doing, right, to make that gathering a better gathering? Am I being a hypocrite, right? Am I being using degrading conventions? What are these degrading conventions? Maybe, using alcohol in a meeting, right? Oh, it's just social. Well, we could discuss this, but well, we're not going to have time, and he doesn't talk about this, but I'm going to recommend to you that you search, if you're listening this live, I mean on the first air, there has been a program on Saturday with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, where she talked a little bit about the use of alcohol. And but you can also go to KardecRadio.com and then look at the programs, and you're going to find a specific discussion that she had about this very topic. So, are we using alcohol, right, in our gatherings? Right? What does alcohol do to our bodies? What can it do to our soul, right? To me as an individual, to me as a spirit, right? So, what is my practice in these gatherings? Am I being a part of the people who is making that gathering become a really, really great gathering, or am I part of the ones who are actually making this gathering not feel so far away and far removed from hypocrisy and from degrading conventions? So this is something that we really need to think about. And he describes this, right? And he says that it's such a wonderful feeling to be in a place where you can really feel the love, the real love, right, being in the air. And if sometimes we feel it here while incarnated, imagine if we can really feel this once we discarnate, and once we get to a certain party or to a certain gathering, we won't be able to hide certain things from everybody, and so people won't be able to hide from us. So once we get to an atmosphere of loving, we will really feel that love, right, spreading all over. So there was a lot of people. He describes the people. He describes how there was a choir, right, with 80 boys and girls. Music. He describes the lighting of the place and so on. And everything is very, very beautiful. But before that, well, I forgot to mention that, well, they are in a certain place in the castle, and then they move to the music hall. And it's in the music hall that they are going to have the following conversation, and that's we're going to hear some music. Well, he's going to mention some of the songs or some of the types of music that were played there. And this is one of the differences in our show tonight, right? We're going to put if not the whole songs, but bits and pieces of some of the musics that are cited here, so that we can maybe feel a little bit more of what the environment felt when they were there talking and hearing those songs. And while he mentions the choir with boys and girls and 50 people playing stringed instruments, and they were performing a lovely bark roll to a marvelous perfection. And a bark roll is a very specific music that you heard the definition before that. It's a type of a Venetian boat song, right, from Venice in Italy, that has different beats that suggests like a boat, right, is being rowed. And Venice, right, has all those canals where you have those lovely couples, traveling around and rowing. People are rowing there, so it's a song that probably was created there, and that's what the Andre mentions here. And since I just mentioned the bark roll, I'm not going to be able to play the whole thing here because we couldn't find one that's without copyright. But I'm just going to play a very small version of a bark roll, and you can find it on YouTube. It's you can just type the name bark roll, and you're going to find this version by Anna Netrebko and Elena Garanka. And I'm going to play a little bit of this bark roll here, so that you can feel and sense what this type of song is. And I highly recommend that you go there and type bark roll on YouTube or on your browser and try to listen to one of these songs. It's very, very beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful type of song. So I hope you liked it. Once again, I highly recommend that you look for and search for Barcarolle. Just type on your search engine and go to a video or music and listen to a piece. And I hope that you feel as emotional as I feel and as I felt when I first heard these in this specific song, when I first heard it a while ago. So, but going on, he says that Alfredo was explaining, because this version that you just heard here is not sang by the choir, right? I mean, there's a choir there, but it's not a children's choir. And the two main voices are of two women, and the choir is of adults. So the description of what Andre was listening to was of a children's choir. So I don't know if it's more beautiful, if it's less beautiful, but to what Andre describes here, it would be even more marvelous, if not because of the group of people, but because we are outside of the matter, right? We are outside of our bodies, and in spirituality, our feelings, our emotions, our sensations can be much higher and can go much deeper. And that's maybe why Alfredo explains this to us. He says that, and I'm going to quote here, he says that the children of the station are our living flowers. They bless us with their fragrance, enchantment, and joy, making all our work much more pleasant. So it's the beauty of childhood, right? With all the powers of their hearts, with all their souls invested in what they're doing and really striving to do their best in learning and practicing what they need to practice. So it's a teaching for us as well, right? To really invest in our children, in the church that I go to, in the Spirit Center that I go to, because our future here on earth depends on what we teach our children, right? Some of the next presidents of the world are already born now. What are we teaching them at this specific moment, right? What kinds of lessons are we leaving to these children, right? So let's leave better children to our world so that we can help our world become as well a better place. So after the children finish their presentation, Ismalia asks Cecilia to play something. And Cecilia says, why me, right, Ismalia? You come from a higher place and you know music probably more than she does. And how can I play something that is pleasing to your ears? You're coming from a higher sphere. And Ismalia says, well, uplifting music, Cecilia, is sublime anywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm on earth incarnated or if I'm in heavens. If it's sublime, if you're really practicing the art with the idea that art is something as well that comes from God and trying to make this connection with beauty, right? It's going to be powerful. And so please remind me, she says, remind me of the beautiful days of home back on earth. And then Cecilia comes and says, well, let's do something. I practiced the piano once I was incarnated, and because my parents loved European composers, and probably that's what her mother told her. and so she decides to go and play something, and she decides to play a song by Johann Sebastian Bach, and it's a very famous song. It's or piece, should I say? It's called Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and the children accompany what she is playing over the piano or over the organ, which is a beautiful, probably instrument due to what Andre describes, and he says that he never saw an instrument like that here on earth. And so she plays that song, and this one specifically, it is so famous that we were able to find one that we can play it in its entirety. So you can also go ahead later on and search for different versions, search for different people, maybe better orchestras or better renditions of this one. But I think you'll see how powerful this piece is right now. And if you can, if you're not driving, close your eyes and focus on the piece. I only have to say that this is not a regular classical song in the sense of those songs that we put, for example, when we are reading something to calm and relax people. It's different. It's not let's say a relaxing song, right? It has a faster rhythm, and since I'm not an expert in song, I cannot describe it in terms of the right words, musically speaking. But you will see that it stirs. It is as if this song is trying to stir something inside of yourself, right? It's making us move, making us run towards something, or running away from something. But it is very interesting for us to pay attention to the piece, because it can be related to the rest of the chapter that we are going to talk a little bit, although briefly, after the song. I just have one more thing to say before I play the song, is that the song is a little longer than usual. The piece is a little longer than our regular pop songs. So it's about 8 minutes. So I really ask you to, if you can, as I say, stop and listen to the piece and try to feel what this piece is telling us, or what Cecilia is trying to tell us with this specific piece of music, Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. So I hope that by now you are still here with us, and I hope you were able to gather and to feel what this piece is trying to tell us. Why did I say that this piece has something to do with the rest of the chapter? Well, you read the chapter, you know what's going to happen next, right? Cecilia is embraced by Ismalia, who was crying after this piece was played by her, but right after that, Ismalia asks Cecilia to sing a song from her soul, right? To show her heart, to show Cecilia's heart to all those who were listening. And what I find it very interesting is that the story that's told after she plays the next song, which is not an instrumental piece, rather it's a piece that has some lyrics, is that she is suffering, right? Although is a suffering for love, and this suffering didn't make her stop loving the love of her life, which is, and we know at this chapter that his name is Erminio. She sings a song of not of despair, but of asking, right, her love to return to her, right? Asking Erminio and sending her love to him to see if this love that she is pouring down on her song can make Erminio awaken, right? Can make him wake up and return to the reality of what love really is. And then she sings this song. Andrea describes the music seeming to come from the depths of her soul, immersing all of them in a sublime emotion. So he tries to remember everything. He can't remember the whole lyrics or everything precisely, but he describes it and he writes us what she sings. And it's a beautiful poem, right, about this love, right? That she longs for him. She longs for Erminio. She longs for the relationship not to be broken. Why is she suffering? Because he unfortunately fell and committed some mistakes that are not precisely described, right? They mention that he has experienced one downfall after another, and Cecilia knows that she won't be able to count on him for a long time, and that's her mother, right, telling us or telling Andre what's going on, and that's why she is going through such inner torment. In this sentence here, right, that Mrs. Bachelor tells us, describes us, that she is going through such inner torment. If you go back and re-listen to the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, you'll see that it is this torment that's there, right, that she is longing, right, she is running to try to get to him, to try to help him, or maybe she is describing that he is running away from her and that she is trying to get to him, right, to try to get to him with this love, with this power of love. But even with all these issues, even with all these problems, she hasn't gotten discouraged, and she works incessantly, filled with hope. And that's a lesson to all of us, right? Here we are talking about a love of a man for a woman, or a woman to a man, in terms of a marriage relationship, we could say, right? But what I'd like to think about here for just 1 second, right? How tough it is for us to understand the difference between a love, let's say, of a mother for her son or daughter, and the love of a man for a woman who decided to marry, or a woman to a man who decided to marry. Why am I mentioning this? It is very interesting that if we love our daughters, if we love our sons, we won't have, basically in most of the cases, are that we won't have any problems in trying, or let's say we will have less problems in trying to fight to keep that love, right? To not to get too distant from those people, right? From our daughters and sons. But once we are talking about, let's say, siblings, right? I was born, and in my family, for example, we are 6. So would I fight as hard for my siblings as I fight for my sons, for my daughters? Will I fight as hard for a person that I love, right, out of my marriage? This is something that I always like to think about, because apparently, and I'm not sure if I'm being here, it's just based on my perception of the world, but these days it is so easy for us to say, and I heard this a few times lately, unfortunately. If this relationship doesn't work, that's fine. It just ended, and then they'll find another person. And what am I doing, right? What are we doing? How much effort are we doing? Are we putting in really fighting to keep the love, to make this love grow, right? To really, independently of what the other person is doing, but dependent on what I am doing to the relationship. And this is something that we really need to try to focus here. And we're using Cecilia's example here, right? Herminio is experiencing one downfall after another. What would we do if we were Cecilia, right? Would we just give up and leave it, and let's search another one? Once he solves his problem, he will go on with his life. And what about this love that we keep talking over and over, right? The love one another that was mentioned in the beginning of the chapter, right? What if we were Cecilia? But now let's think on the other hand. What if we were Herminio? How much would I like, if I am the one who is experiencing one downfall after the other, how much would I like for a person that loves me to keep loving me, even if I make the same mistakes, even if I fall and fall and fall? How much would I appreciate being helped, right? Being loved, being searched for, being of a person that I look and I say, I see the person still having faith in me, right? And maybe stirring something inside of me and say, hey, I have a person that fights so hard for me. Why can't I find the strength to fight for myself and really strive to go back and find that love once more? Right, so it is very interesting for us to think about this, right? Putting ourselves, as we repeat from time to time in this program, that to put ourselves in the shoes of all the characters here, of being of the mother, right? How much is Mrs. Bachelor love for Cecilia? How much does it support? How much does she take? How much does she suffer in seeing her daughter suffering for another person, right? But she keeps loving her, right? What would I feel as a father if I were in her place, right? Seeing my daughter suffering for a man, or seeing my son suffering for a woman that is falling and falling and falling, committing and making the same errors and the same mistakes. So it is something that we really need to think about. If we want to grow the love for one another, we really need to practice loving one another. They were all very moved by what was happening, and Ismalia embraces Cecilia after she finishes, and she says, congratulations, right? That she didn't know that Cecilia had progressed so much in the divine art. And what a beautiful song. I'm not going to make any comments on the song, because I think that, and I said that before, right? Poetry is something that, if you're not an expert, it really needs for a person to try to delve into that poem, right? Read the words, try to feel what the person is feeling. I already mentioned that she has this deep desire, right? This deep longing for her love. And if we read the lyrics again, go back later and listen to it again, or as I keep suggesting all the time, have the book with you, right? Take notes, and take notes at good words, at good sentences there, to try to reflect upon them. And I'm just going to read a small piece here that I find to be very moving and very touching, which is the end of the song of the poetry, the poem that she writes, right? So I will heal all your wounds of bitterness. I will give you direction on your path. I will love those whom you love, so that you may bless me with your smile. Right? So she really wants to love him that much, and is pouring her love onto him to wish him the best, so that they can be together again once he is able to stand up again, right, and to be ready to love her back, and love, right, not only her but love himself as well. But she never gives up of him. She keeps working. She keeps doing what she needs to do, and she never gives up on him. And so that's the only comment that I want to make about the poem, as I said. But again, highly recommended. Get the book, read the poem again, find something that you think it's interesting there. And if you want to make a comment, if you want to send us a note, please do so, right? Visit KardecRadio.com. There you will find the contact form, so that you can send messages to us. There you will also find our other shows. You can also contact us on Facebook, right? Just type Kardec Radio there on Facebook, and you will find our page. And then there you can send us your message, send us your suggestions, send us your comment on this poem. What do you think of it? Is it too sad? Is it too joyful? What does she want to say when she says this or that? What do you think about this chapter? What are you thinking about our show? What are you thinking about all the other shows on Kardec Radio? So please contact us. Just go KardecRadio.com. You'll find all the information there. But then now we're about to close this. I think it's one of the shortest programs that we had, but I think it's so beautiful that I don't want to extend our conversation too much, so that you can gather all these thoughts very quickly. Cecilia kisses Ismalia's hand and replies to her once Ismalia congratulated Cecilia, and she asks for forgiveness, right? Because her heart is still very much connected to the earth, exactly by what we were describing here. Is still connected to Herminio, which by her description here is still incarnated, right? And so that's why her music, or her song, her lyrics were so poignant, but so connected to the feelings of the earth, of the materiality that we still live here. And then we see how much we can look differently on this comment when Ismalia, which is, we already know, it's a higher level spirit, or spirit of higher spirituality than all those who are there, at least to the ones that we know. When she understands what Cecilia is going through at that moment, she sees her suffering, right? Ismalia sees Cecilia's inner suffering, holds her close to her, and then whispers to Cecilia. And we can hear, right, Ismalia whispering to Cecilia when Ismalia tells us, to be devoted is not a crime, my good Cecilia. Love is the light of God, even when it shines at the bottom of an abyss. It doesn't matter where love is. It doesn't matter. It can be in the darkest place. When we love, a light is on, and then we can see. Is this light of God. And even with all that suffering that you're going through, you're devoted to that love. And once you pour it out, we can feel it. And through this love, we can grow. Let's be devoted, but devoted to love, not to dissension, not to hatred. No, let's be devoted to love, to this love that God shows us, right? The love that listens, that hears, that is ready to help at any time, that it shines even when it's at the bottom of an abyss. Hopefully, and I hope that certainly we are not at the bottom of an abyss, so our light is already shining at least halfway up from the abyss, right? So we can also see the light coming from above. But even if we are at the bottom of an abyss, let's love so that we can allow the light of God to shine through our love to help everybody that's around me, to help myself, and to help this world become a better place, to help the abyss to have a small point of light inside of it so that we can see where we are walking towards. And let's hope that we are all walking towards the love of Jesus, the love of God. I wish you all a great week, and I hope to see you here with all your lights up next week. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.